Everyone calls it a stealth fighter. Russia says it's the future. The West says it's a copycat. With a small, secretive fleet and a reputation built on claims versus counterclaims, the Su-57 sits at the center of a global argument. Tonight, we cut through the hype, what it really is, what it isn't, and why underestimating it could be a very costly mistake. The story of the Su-57 begins not in Moscow, but in Washington. Back in the 1980s, the United States launched the ATF program, the competition that birthed the F-22 Raptor, the first true fifth-generation stealth fighter. For the Soviets, watching this unfold was a nightmare. If America could dominate the skies undetected, how could Russia possibly keep up? Moscow responded with its own advanced fighter project, the MFI program. But after years of economic collapse and political turmoil in the 1990s, the prototype MiG-144 never went anywhere. Russia simply didn't have the resources. That's when Sukhoi stepped in. They gambled on a radical design, the S-37 Berkut, with its futuristic forward-swept wings. It wasn't meant to win wars, but to prove that Russia could still innovate. And that daring prototype kept the dream alive long enough for the government to launch a new effort in the 2000s, PAK FA, the program that would eventually deliver the Su-57. This wasn't just about building a jet. It was about restoring Russia's pride. But as history would prove, designing a stealth killer on paper was one thing. Actually building it was another. From the very beginning, Russia's vision for the Su-57 split from the American playbook. The United States built the F-22 around one principle: stealth above all else. Its shape, coating, and even weapon storage were engineered to make it as invisible as possible to enemy radar. Russia, however, believed that pure stealth came with too many sacrifices. Instead, they prioritized performance first, stealth second. The Su-57 was designed to be agile, super-maneuverable, and versatile. A machine that could fight at close range, perform dazzling aerobatics, and still pack advanced radar-reducing features. It carried internal weapons bays, like its American rival, but also emphasized thrust vectoring engines that allowed it to twist and turn in ways no F-22 could match. To Russian designers, air combat wasn't just about avoiding detection. It was about outmaneuvering the enemy once missiles started flying. On paper, it was the best of both worlds, a fast, lethal aircraft that could vanish from radar until the very last second. But as the years dragged on, reality would prove far harsher than the vision. The dream of the Su-57 quickly collided with the harsh realities of Russian industry. The project was announced in the early 2000s as the future backbone of the Russian Air Force. But as prototypes rolled out, progress slowed. Budgets tightened, corruption scandals surfaced, and sanctions made acquiring critical technology nearly impossible. By the mid-2010s, only a handful of prototypes had flown. Production deadlines slipped again and again. Even today, after more than a decade of development, Russia has only managed to build 24 Su-57s, far short of the hundreds once promised. Western analysts mocked the jet as a failed stealth fighter, pointing to engine problems, avionics delays, and endless setbacks. Critics called it a publicity stunt, more useful for air shows than actual combat. But dismissing the Su-57 entirely may be premature. Russia has a history of struggling in development, only to surprise the world when their designs finally mature. The question was no longer if the Su-57 could fly, it was whether it could truly compete. Despite the delays and doubts, the Su-57 isn't an empty shell. It carries a suite of advanced avionics, powerful sensors, and long-range missiles designed to strike before enemies even know it's there. Its thrust vectoring engines make it one of the most maneuverable jets in the sky, capable of sharp turns and evasive moves that few rivals could replicate. But one myth persists, that stealth means invisibility. The truth is more nuanced. Stealth doesn't make a jet vanish from radar. It makes it harder to lock on in time. And that difference can mean survival in a dogfight. The Su-57 may not match the radar-evading profile of the F-22, but its design philosophy suggests it doesn't have to. Russia has already tested the Su-57 in real combat zones, from Syria to Ukraine, though in very limited numbers. Some believe this was more about sending a message than changing the battlefield. Still, those appearances proved one thing: the jet is real and it flies. The debate then shifted. Was the Su-57 a technological breakthrough, or just a carefully polished illusion? From the moment the Su-57 was unveiled, Western analysts and defense officials were quick to cast doubt. Some labeled it a copycat fighter, borrowing ideas from the F-22 and F-35, but failing to execute them at the same level. Others dismissed it as a propaganda tool, a jet more valuable on state television than on the battlefield. Export hopes also collapsed under pressure. India, once a partner in development, walked away after years of frustration with delays and cost overruns. Turkey, under sanctions, was rumored to be interested, but no real deal emerged. Without foreign buyers, Russia was left struggling to fund mass production on its own. NATO reports highlighted its small fleet and lack of combat deployment, framing the Su-57 as a paper tiger. Yet, even these dismissals came with a note of caution. Underestimate Russian engineering at your own risk. Because in modern warfare, perception matters as much as performance. And the Su-57's greatest weapon might not be its missiles, but the fear and speculation it generates. Inside Russia, the story sounds very different. State media hails the Su-57 as the crown jewel of the Russian Air Force, a fighter that can rival, even surpass, America's F-22 and F-35. Officials call it a fifth-generation multi-role powerhouse, capable of dominating the skies for decades to come. For the Kremlin, the Su-57 is more than a machine. It's a symbol of national pride. Each new airframe rolled out of the factory isn't just a jet, it's a statement. Russia is still a major player, still capable of building world-class weapons. This narrative is fueled by carefully staged demonstrations and promotional footage showing the jet performing dramatic maneuvers at air shows or firing missiles in controlled tests. For the domestic audience, it works. The Su-57 is presented as proof that Russia won't be outmatched by the West, but between the glossy propaganda and the grim realities of production, the truth is harder to pin down. And that leads to the real question: where does the Su-57 stand today? Today, the Su-57 exists in a strange middle ground. Not a total failure, but not the game changer it was promised to be. Only a limited number have entered service, far below Russia's original ambitions. Many airframes still rely on interim engines, with the true next-gen power plants repeatedly delayed. In Ukraine, a few Su-57s have reportedly flown missions, but their appearances were rare and carefully managed. Some experts believe this was deliberate. Using them sparingly reduces the risk of losing one in combat, while still letting Russia boast that its stealth fighter is battle-tested. Future upgrades, like the Su-57M, are said to include better engines, improved stealth coatings, and new weapons. But given Russia's economic strain and the impact of sanctions, whether those promises materialize remains uncertain. For now, the Su-57 is less of a fleet backbone and more of a technology demonstrator, a bridge toward Russia's next generation of aircraft, but not the revolution it was meant to be. The Su-57 was supposed to be Russia's answer to the F-22, a jet that could restore balance in the skies. Instead, it became a story of bold ambition, endless delays, and clashing narratives. To the West, it's often portrayed as a half-finished project, a copycat fighter that never lived up to its hype. To Russia, it's a symbol of resilience, proof that even through sanctions, setbacks, and limited resources, they can still field a cutting-edge warplane. The truth lies somewhere in between. The Su-57 is not the stealth phantom Russia wanted the world to believe in, but it's not an empty showpiece either. Its blend of agility, advanced weapons, and evolving stealth capabilities makes it a platform worth watching, especially as upgraded variants emerge. And that leaves us with the question that really matters. In modern warfare, is the power of a jet measured by what it can do, or by what the world believes it can do?